you're always driven by justice. You want to do the best that you can for everybody involved. And that is sort of a really freeing and liberating way to practice law, because you're in pursuit of the truth and injustice. It's exciting.
Hey everyone, I'm Denisa Tova, host of Beyond the Bar podcast, and I am here with a very special guest once again, someone who I really want to get to know, someone who I've sort of traveled in a similar professional circles, and she sounds like a very dynamic woman just based on the little bit I know about her. Valerie Tocci, she's a divorce attorney and she's a partner at Fox Rothschild. And I mean, she is certainly not new to the field. And she has lived her entire life in probably 20 block or so radius of Manhattan. She has never had a driver's license. Okay, so I was actually passed on this little tidbit. She went to the London School of Economics. She became a federal prosecutor. She helped build domestic violence court in Queens from scratch, and then walked into family law and never looked back. And she's raising two daughters in the city. And, there's just so much packed in there, and I cannot wait to get to know the woman behind all of these accolades. So Valerie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be here.
Wow. That is so impressive. Well, so first of all, I'm curious. So is it true you've lived in the city, in New York City, your entire life?
I am a born and raised Manhattanite. And my fun fact that I always give about myself is that I've only ever lived in Midtown Manhattan. I've lived on the east side and the west side, but never above 67th Street or below 36th Street, because I'm very into convenience. And it's been hard for me to leave the neighborhood, as it were.
Literally.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because my parents were both born and raised in Brooklyn, but I remember sort of when I was graduated from college at the end of the 90s, and Brooklyn was becoming very chic to live in. And I had said to my mom, I really want to get, an apartment with some girlfriends in Williamsburg. And my mother said, absolutely not. And how she rues the day, I'm sure. But yeah, I'm a Midtown Manhattanite for sure.
What do you remember about your mom, like your upbringing? What are, maybe I'm just curious. I always like to, I had a very sort of a close relationship with my mom, who on one hand I admired. She was a hardworking woman, very opinionated, believed in education, tough in so many ways. What was your mom like, and what is that one thing that you took from her that till today you apply?
I had a similar relationship with my mom that you describe. My mom always worked when I was a child, and I always found her to be an inspiration professionally and personally. She is certainly a very, very hard worker, but she's also extremely altruistic, and she's also an authority in her field. And to me, that's really the sort of pinnacle of success: being able to have other people admire your work and learn from that work and take that work and that experience on to their own practices, their own professional lives. So that's always been a very important part of my relationship with my mom. And as a mother of two daughters, I'm trying to kind of give them the same uh, inspiration. I don't know how successful I am at it, but I'm always kind of thinking about trying to set an example for my little girls.
In what ways would you say you're a little different?
than
Um,
my mom.
yeah,
Um,
intentionally.
oh, I don't know. That's a really good question. Um, That's actually a really good question. I think that I might be a little bit more spiritual, maybe, and this might be just a generational thing, a little bit more in tune with feelings and understanding
Mm.
psychological things. Not that she's unsophisticated about those things, but I think, you know, um, we're so lucky to like live in an age now where we have so much access to the way people think and understanding that there are diverse ways of thinking and language for feelings and being okay with feelings that may otherwise be challenging. So I think that I'm probably better. I'm a little bit different than my mom at that kind of stuff, but um but she's pretty sophisticated about it too. I'm just more sophisticated.
Yeah. It's interesting. I didn't appreciate that when I was younger. It felt like what I it felt like I would describe it as tough upbringing, and it was a
Yeah,
little jaded and felt like, I was almost a little bit of a fear, or for a while, like, I was driving myself to prove something to her, even though she wasn't asking, but that's what drove
yeah,
me, and then I realized, as I got to do my own work, is that, she just did the best she knew how, and I also learned about her own upbringing, which was really, really strict, and you worked, and, um I remember, like, weekends where we just would go for a stroll into the woods and pick up leaves and then made some sort of artwork and then baked something. So I remember the fun times, but at the same time, you always kind of had to do stuff to be productive, otherwise you're lazy, right? So it
right,
was that's how she was raised. So I began to appreciate that because of her own upbringing and what you just said, maybe not having those tools from her own parent, which was
right,
very different, did the best she knew how to pass it on, and I wanted to break that generational cycle and just give something different to slightly different, to my
right.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good balance too, because you don't want to abandon those the ethos of working hard and trying your best, but maybe with a little bit of a softer approach.
So, wow, before family laws, you were a federal prosecutor before.
I was a Queens County Assistant District Attorney, and then I was very luckily seconded. I was stationed, as it were, at the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of New York and Brooklyn, and I was there for a while. As basically, I started out trying gun crimes. It was under
Wow.
a federal grant allowing local prosecutors to become federal prosecutors. And I had done very well in my early trial work in the Queen's DA's office, and I was selected to go to the U.S. Attorney's office, which was the absolute most exciting and best experience of my early professional life. And I thought always that prosecution is a really exciting way, certainly to be a young attorney, whether it's state or federal, but you are immediately in the courtroom, you're immediately conversing, arguing before the most important judges. You have a ton of contact with um, clients, real people. The stakes are very, very high, and it's very exciting way. And of course, you're always driven by justice. You want to do the best that you can for everybody involved. And that is sort of a really freeing and liberating way to practice law, because you're in pursuit of the truth and injustice. It's exciting. So I encourage all young lawyers to do some kind of public interest work, but certainly if you have the opportunity to be a, uh, a prosecutor, you should definitely go for that.
Wow. That sounds like something from the movies.
Yeah, it was a little bit like the movies, although it's funny because, you know, you would be watching those shows like, Law& and Order,
Yeah.
and yeah, and, there was actually when I was in the DA's office, there was a show like a nighttime drama
Yeah.
on at the same time, and people would say, "Oh, is it just like that?" And I was like, "Well, it's not just like that."
Well,
But but yeah, it's not. You get like frustrated watching, all of the inaccuracies that you have to do.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, there were definitely parts of it that were dramatic for sure.
And what got you interested in the law to begin with growing up?
I have a grandparent who was an attorney, and then became a judge here in New York State, New York City. My uncle is a practicing lawyer, and he did part of his practice was devoted to matrimonial law, and so I had the experience of working in his office as a teenager and a college student. And to me, uh, I thought that it was a good way to be a professional and also have occasionally the opportunity to help people. And so that, for me, it was like a very noble pursuit, like, an intellectually
Yes.
exciting pursuit. And so that always seemed to me to be something that I might be good at or I might like.
And then so you didn't stop there. You then continued to is it private sector?
Yeah, so after law school, though, I answered an ad in the law journal and I went right into matrimonial law because it had always been in the back of my mind that that was something I might like to practice. So when it was time to leave prosecution, I joined the first firm that I worked with and had a very good experience there, and then went on to other boutiques. Been in other larger firms, but I've been practicing matrimonial law exclusively here in New York City for, I think this is my 18th year of matrimonial
Wow.
practice. And it's fun. It's definitely a fun way to be a lawyer. No, you've interviewed lots and lots of matrimonial family law practitioners,
Yes.
and I think that we all kind of share the feeling that this is, a good and interesting way to practice law.
Yeah, if you have the stomach for it and the heart and a mind for it, it's certainly not a job. It's you dedicate your life to it. It's a career. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very hard work. I think that people don't kind of appreciate
Mm,
how intense it can be.
yeah.
And even though I find that over the years, the behavior is very patterned, people do the same things over and over again, just sort of in subtly different ways. And of course, the law is, um, there are only so many kind of scenarios that you can encounter. So some of that feels patterned too, but it's always different and interesting, and feels important, which is keeps you certainly engaged and wanting to continue and get better and continue to practice. That's always the goal, to do better, to you know
Yeah, and then there's just so many facets. It's really it's a complicated area of law. And again, if it was unlike many other areas, you're dealing with stuff, assets, and I'm sure there's some emotional component, if you look at corporate law, if you look at intellectual property, bankruptcy, okay, but you're certainly not dealing with parenting issues
no.
and that just emotionally charged situation like that. And you were also involved with domestic violence too. That's a whole another layer.
Yeah, for me, I my first job out of law school, I was the court attorney to Judge Mickey Morgenstern, a fabulous judge who's recently retired. She was, at the time that I was her court attorney, she was sitting in family court in Kings County, where it was in the old building. They have a beautiful building now, but it was a very small little building. And one day, I think Judge Morgenstern had 167 cases on her calendar, and it was like
Ah,
really intense and during a heat wave. And so, but I saw, a lot of trauma and a lot of really unfair and unfortunate circumstances. And it always made me very angry and upset.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity also as a prosecutor to work on some domestic violence cases, and that's always been in the in you know I think that it was challenged my sense of justice and unfairness, and got me really fired up about protecting, regardless of gender, because men are also the victim of
Oh,
domestic
yeah.
violence. Um, uh, Always got me fired up about wanting to do something about it. That really upsets me and angers me that and you somebody you have children with you would treat with
Yeah.
in that kind of deplorable way. Really, I don't like. Yeah,
Yeah, no, and no, and and I've learned there are so many there are different types of domestic violence. I mean, there's
right.
well, it's the control piece, and it may some situations may not be as easily spottable, if you will, and that person may be suffering, emotional abuse and financial abuse, and
Financial abuse is a huge
uh,
problem.
and then the even like in divorce situations where person with means continues to file motion after motion after motion just to completely exhaust the other spouse. It's
Mhm.
yeah, you're right. I've always been interested in what triggers people, and it's taking stuff personally and it's your own perspective, how you were raised, and the lack of, and it's yeah, that's really tough. And I it was interesting what you said, it makes you angry. And I'm glad you're saying that. You're a real
Mhm.
human being. When I hear some of the professionals would say, "Hey, I compartmentalize," that's great. That's great. But I mean, it has to be angering. Of
Yeah, and you have to compartmentalize, otherwise you can't, you gotta keep a clear head,
course. Yeah.
obviously, and, it's easier for some people to do than others, but I think it's also important, to feel that kind of strike of passion in your heart when
Yes.
something is really unfair. Um,
Yes.
that is, motivating, certainly.
How old are your girls?
I have elementary school aged children. They are in, under fifth grade. And because I am in scientific terms, a geriatric mother, although no one I knew in New York City I think I was like, one of the first people to have a baby as I was approaching my 40s. So, yeah, but they're really little and they're so cute. Like I'm so um, amazed at how cute they are. It's really cute. They're adorable, but it's fun.
Yeah. What are they into? What do you guys do together when you're
But the
not
moment they're
working?
into, I'm sure everybody who has, a 7, 8, 9-year-old child, they're into squishies.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yes. Yep.
are
Yep.
sort of wildly expensive and hard to find,
Yep.
and get broken very easily and leak some kind of mystery liquid all over your apartment. But so that's what they're very much into that. They were into K-pop Demon Hunters, but of course that's over. Taylor Swift they were into, that's done. And a year ago they would have given anything to go to that wedding, but not interested.
Really?
Yeah, I was really surprised. Like Taylor's getting married, and I don't know, not as into it any longer. Um,
That's interesting. Yeah, I've
yeah,
heard someone say that who used to be completely obsessed, and it's like, oh yeah, okay.
like what am I
Okay.
going to do with these 400 Taylor Swift T-shirts, posters, books? But yeah, that's out for the moment. But they're regular kind of city kids. Um, they actually really love going to the playground. They
Mm.
have a lot of fun there. They like going to the movies. Movies are very exotic to go to the movie theater. I think it's fascinating. Um, yeah, they want to go on Instagram and and
Of
scroll
course.
and look at
Yep.
videos. That's really worries me. I don't want them I need them to maintain their attention spans at least for the next couple of years. So, and they love reading. They read graphic novels, which I'm assured also by professionals is just as good as reading a full Harry Potter, but we'll see. I don't know.
It sounds like they're just a normal, well-rounded kids.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they have
Yeah.
their challenges too, and it's good to as a practitioner of family law, I actually am kind of grateful for my kids' issues with, learning disabilities and that kind of stuff, because you get into the nitty gritty of it. It's very, very complicated to raise kids with special needs, with issues here
Mm,
in New York, although it's incredibly pervasive. This is just kind of the modern age. And again, it's sort of, we're lucky because we are able to identify
yeah.
issues now that we wouldn't realize, during our childhood, that, were things that are treatable, that can be resolved with therapy and medication and all of those things. And those are the big, big decisions that the parents have to make, especially when they are at odds with each other. It's a little easier for me, having dealt with those issues myself with my husband, to counsel people, um, and remind them that they really need to kind of put their own issues aside and focus on what is best for the children, what's most healthy, what is suits their individual needs. I think when I first started practicing, there was this thing that I would hear judges say a lot, which is like, "Oh, kids are adaptable. Kids are adaptable." Now, as a parent, I don't think they're so adaptable. They have
Mm,
their
yeah.
own foibles and their own things that they need, and it's easy and takes the pressure off parents, I would think, to kind of say, "This is what my kid needs. This is what the professionals who are treating my children are suggesting this kid needs," and that kind of makes the decision making process a little bit easier.
It is tough to navigate that, and I also think, with the prevalence of social media and
Mm,
everybody now is looking at what the other person's doing and saying forming sort of like it's like barometer of what is right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, what's
yeah,
trending, it's gotta be right. It's like having sort of that misperception about reality sometimes, and that can, add more pressure. So, when I say normal, someone is a child who's autistic, to me, that's normal, and they live in their
yeah,
own world. What's not normal, is person who is doing the mudslinging and spreading hate and, social media and the bullying and all that
yeah,
nastiness. I mean, that's not acceptable, not normal. And yeah, the other stuff, it's just finding what they need. And my son passed, but when he was younger, he had
sorry.
Tourette's. Thank
Mm,
you. But he was great, he noticed that he was a little different, and it showed up more like as a physical sort of like involuntary tick or little vocal tick. Wasn't like, screaming out any sort of obscenities, not like that, but it was different. He was 8
mhm,
years old, and one day, somebody was just taunting him. He says, "Hey, Twitch man," and all he goes, "I know, funny, right?" It's like, "I know, I'm a Twitch guy," and he embraced it, and then, he played sports and all his friends in the athletic team. I mean, nobody would mess with him because, they're all stuck together, but he sort of embraced it that he was just kind of stood out, but that was it's just a normal part of who he was, and he lived with it, and but, yeah, it was challenging. So it's more
yeah.
and more challenging, yeah, to help
But it
them
is,
navigate.
we didn't have that as kids, like embracing the difference. I think that's a really important thing, and embracing what makes you special and
Yes. Yes.
different.
Oh, yeah. Not
It's
not not easy. I'm curious, you really are a dynamic woman. I mean, a lot of the things you mentioned, it's stepping into really tough situation and advocating, and that's not easy. What and this is one of my favorite questions because it just kind of allows me to see into the other parts of that person's mind and heart. Like, what would you be doing if you didn't practice law, if you didn't do this? What do you think you'd be doing?
That is a great question. I have no idea. I don't know. Oh, you know what? I always well, as a kid, I thought, I wanted to be a movie star, obviously. But that didn't pan out. So, this is the worst.
Yet.
Yeah, right, it's not over yet. But the other thing, this is such a non, it's not this is a terrible answer, but I'm going to give you the answer. I'd love to be a wealth manager. That's what I should have done. I
Oh,
should have done it. I wish I had known about it. I would have been great. Um, but what would I do? Or I could be uh, a judge. I'd love to be a judge. Maybe that would be great. I'd love to sit in judgment of other people. But I'm kidding. But I mean, I admire very much what judges do, and I love the idea of listening to trials and things like that. That would be interesting for me. Um, what else? I mean, yeah, there are a lot of things I'd like to do. Um, I wish I had been, in some ways, a little bit more adventurous. Um,
how
but
so?
oh, I was thinking about, I just for this first time in my entire life, this past winter, did skiing. I went skiing. For my whole
Nice.
life, I never did it because I think I was a little scared of, with good reason, of breaking a leg. But
How was it?
it was like scary, but then I really liked it, and I thought,
Mm.
gee, I wish I had started this earlier because I don't know how far I'm going to get. But uh, yeah, I think that or I wish I had gotten my driver's license. I'm working on that. I'm working on it. But I wish I had. There are a couple of things that I shied away from that I think now as I'm getting a little bit older, I realize that I should not have. I should just have done them.
Or do
So,
them now?
or do them now. Hopefully, it's
Yeah.
not quite too late. But
No, no, not at all. Not at all. Just, I had a wonderful conversation yesterday with a guest, and we talked about just staying open to possibilities and not resisting. And, if there is a desire, not being so, obsessing about it and being attached to it, but just, it's almost like, you manifest something or, you visualize something and
yeah,
just staying open. That's all.
I do believe in the power of manifestation. I do think that that's a real thing. And if anything, it is because you are setting your intentions and
Yes.
making a clear path for yourself. So it's not a magical sort of thing, but it
Right.
does train your thinking. And I think actually people who are going through divorces can do that
Mm.
kind of visualization as well. And it can be very, very helpful. And I often tell people, try to imagine what your life is going to be like in
Mm.
5 years. And I can almost guarantee you, and lawyers don't like to guarantee anything, of course, but I could guarantee you that you will be happier. You will be better off. You will have more control over your life. And of course, that is everybody's goal, to have control over your existence and what you're doing. So
Yeah.
I love visualization. I love manifestation. I think it works, and I think we should all do it.
What would you tell somebody who's thinking about getting into this particular area of the law?
Oh, I encourage them 100%. I think
Mm.
that uh, look, it's hard work. And it's not. I would say if you do great in law school, do a couple of years at a giant firm, pay your loans off. But if you if you like problem solving, and really having contact with the people you're working with, and feeling at the end of the day that you are able to change things, make resolutions of complicated problems, then matrimonial law, family law is definitely a good place for you. So I remember actually when I was applying to law school, I had people say to me, people who were lawyers, people who were in law school, don't do it. It's not,
Wow.
it sucks. It's
Interesting.
not like being a lawyer. And I found that kind of, I didn't like that because I said, well, why shouldn't I be a lawyer? I want to be a lawyer. It's a
Yeah.
prestigious thing to be. It's an important thing to be. So I would never discourage anybody from doing anything that attracted them. But uh, if anybody wants to talk to me about becoming a matrimonial lawyer, I'm always open. I'm happy to talk to you about it.
That's great.
But I think
You
it's a
need
great practice area.
mentors.
Yeah, I think it's a
That's
wonderful
great.
practice.
Wow. That's it's very generous and I really appreciate that and you sharing, your story. It's you may think there is not enough there, it's not interesting enough. But it's an admirable work that
Mhm.
that you are doing, and your background. And I know that you're probably hearing your mom quite a bit. And then helping, your children navigate this complicated world at any age, doesn't matter. I became mom way too young to know what the hell I was doing. And, and then it's almost like, they become the practice ground, sadly, right? I mean,
Right.
and, you've gained a lot of experience, and now, that I think that says something too, is, you know more and you're able to guide them better. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you. This is such a great conversation. I really appreciate that.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I'm nervous. I hope it didn't come across, but because I don't, this is my very first podcast I've ever been on, I think. So
Wow. No, this was
to
this
start
was
at such a high level is very,
you're open and vulnerable, and have plenty to share. And I think you make yourself very relatable.
Mhm.
Um, and that says a lot. So, and I'm sure viewers, listeners who are contemplating divorce, getting ready to go through with it, to connect with Valerie, click on the links below the show notes. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Beyond the Bar podcast channel. And until next time, stay curious and stay inspired.